After solving the diagnosis, I tried to get Kotori for our study session, but then an emergency call came in. The patient came in and Kotori noticed the blue marks on the sheet. When they opened it, they were surprised to see the patient's leg. It looks like his leg was bitten by an animal. Kotori tried to revive the patient, but the patient is already dead. The police will take things from here, he said after calling it. One nurse noticed the blood color from the syringe she took from the patient. His blood color is blue. I arrived and see it myself, and saw an impressive bite wound too. A bite from a stupidly large set of jaws. A colossal monster severing people's legs. A man with a blue blood. I laugh out of excitement. That's what I call interesting. After a few hours, the police came in. I said, I am willing to help them out again in exchange for info. But the police declined. But I went to the crime scene anyway, and we bumped with the detectives. We went to Karoom Lake Park. Our patient was found near here, at the construction site on the other side of those trees. I gave the detective a hint on what could have severed the victim's leg like that, the strength needed. No matter how you look at it, it must have been bitten off by an animal. The detective insists we still don't know that fact and need to wait for the autopsy. They said it could be a dog, but no breed of dog can bite human leg like that. I know a creature who can. It lived on the continent of Laramidia in the Maastrichtian Age. Its name contains the Latin word for tyrant. Isn't it amazing? As of 66 million years ago, billions of these creatures roamed the earth. Yeah, that's right. This here is the animal that bit off our victim's leg. The Tyrannosaurus Rex. The police detectives won't believe me, and so we grab dinner as we wait for the autopsy. As they get the result, they found out there was a luminal reaction on the skeleton's teeth. The wound on the victim's leg was also a match. Now they are safe to conclude that the T-Rex skeleton is the cause to the leg dismemberment. The detectives asked me to explain how I came up with my conclusion. Based on the bite mark, an incredibly large creature must have been responsible for the injury. However, there aren't many animals alive today that would fit that description. We're too far away from the ocean, so it couldn't have been a shark or other sea creature. Basically, he had to have been attacked on land by some behemoth that went extinct long ago. Sounds crazy, right? But then I noticed this museum was located nearby and made the connection. The detective was amazed by my deduction, but the other detective is not convinced, as it makes no sense if the skeleton would move on its own and bit off the victim's leg. Well, I wish! Now that would be really exciting. The victim is Kusu Kume, 23. He served time in prison for assault. When he got out, he was seen entering the HQ of a known gang. Jino Minobi discovered his dead body. He's the construction site supervisor, a man in his 50s. He was inspecting the site when he found out the body. We thought he was the one who called in the emergency call, not no. It was the doctor at a nearby clinic. Mr. Manobi called in the doctor to examine Kumail, but he knows he can't do anything due to the patient's severed leg. That's why he called in emergency. After hearing that from the detective, I stand up and went to the doctor's clinic. The clinic was closed. I went to the back to check the area and saw a door. I ring the doorbell and doctor opened up. Yellow Tang, Blue Street Cleaner Ras, Carpenter's Flasher Ras, I said. The doctor was amazed that I know some tropical fish. After a few moments, the detectives came in. I told the doctor I was curious why he didn't treat that man at his private clinic when he has a surgery room. But he said he can't do anything because his legs is severed and his heart had already stopped. They were closed that day, and there were no nurses on site. Nothing could have been done to save him. Well, that explains why. I turned around and walked away, saying to the detectives to get the crime lab take a look around the museum. It won't be long now before the case gets solved. I'm 100% convinced the culprit left behind vital evidence there. I went down to the museum taking a different path and the detectives followed me. I have a theory. I'm not certain enough to say it aloud yet. That's why I'm confirming my suspicions. We entered the museum and there it is, the blue blood from the victim. We follow the trail of the blue blood and it led us to the fish tank. Well, that was interesting. First off, let's ask ourselves why his blood was blue. Also, how did his leg to be bitten off by the Tyrannosaurus Rex? For this mystery, allow me to present my diagnosis. While we are at it, the doctor arrived at the scene. Before we declare this case closed, we need to carefully consider every event that transpired and how they connect. The body with the blue blood, the leg bitten off by Tyrannosaurus Rex, the blue stain in the storage room, Once you put the pieces together, you get a sense of the bigger picture. First and foremost, we should focus on the victim's blood and why it was that color. The phenomenon itself isn't that strange. I asked Kotori if a patient's blood is blue. What's the first condition that springs to mind? He answered methemoglobinemia. That's right. It's a disorder where the hemoglobin in red blood cells gets oxidized and turns blue, hindering the normal transport of oxygen. Kumail didn't have a normal injury. He had gotten shot during a gunfight. The bullet was still in his body. During the procedure, a large amount of local anesthesia must have been used on Kumail. As a result, he exhibited methemoglobinemia, and his condition immediately became dire. Fearing others would discover his unsavory ties, Hachisuka didn't take Kumail to a fully equipped hospital. Instead, he came here, the one place he could continue treatment. Because the museum have the proper drugs, in order to properly treat him, you need medicine that turns methemoglobin back into hemoglobin. I walked close to the doctor attempting to get the drugs he was holding, but he accidentally dropped it, and a blue liquid was spilled. It is methylene blue. It can be appropriately used to treat methemoglobinemia. Kumail needed treatment as soon as possible. That's why he had to drag him to the storage room. This man tried to treat Kumail by making him drink methylene blue. One problem. He was already dead by then. He panicked and accidentally knocked over the container. That's the reason we found it in the storage room. If the body had been left the way it was, it would have been obvious he had received medical help. That's why he severed the leg. After all, the bullet would have been evidence. And of course, he couldn't use proper tools to do it either. He wanted to make it impossible for someone to tell he had tried treating the leg. He could only sever the limb forcefully with some kind of heavy bladed object. That's when he chanced upon it. A head lined with enormous fangs. The perfect instrument for the job. The ideal sharpened tool, 68 million years in the making. Afterward, he carried the corpse through the forest behind the museum and dumped it at the empty construction site. So, there you have it, case closed.